Welcome to Evermore Love. Hello, lovely listeners. If this is your first time joining us, a huge welcome to Evermore Love, where we weave enchanting stories that not only warm your heart but also help you level up your English listening skills. Today's story is a beautiful exploration of what perfect really means in love, full of tender moments, unexpected twists, and that soul-stirring romance we all crave. It's called My Perfect Husband, and trust me, it'll have you reaching for the tissues and the replay button. Quick shout out before we start. We're inching toward that magical 1K subscriber milestone, and your support is the heartbeat of this channel. If you're enjoying these tales, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and, most importantly, watch the full video. It helps us reach more dreamers like you and keeps the stories flowing. Alright, cozy up, and let's step into Sarah's world. My Perfect Husband. The soft hum of the coffee maker filled the sunlit kitchen like a gentle lullaby, steam curling upward in lazy spirals that danced with the morning light filtering through the lace curtains. Sarah leaned against the worn oak counter, her fingers tracing the rim of her favorite mug, the one Alex had brought back from their trip to Tuscany, painted with tiny olive branches that whispered of lazy afternoons under vineyard skies. At 32, she often caught herself in these quiet moments, marveling at the life she'd stumbled into. Alex, her husband of 3 years, was the kind of man novels were built around. Tall and broad-shouldered with a smile that crinkled the corners of his warm hazel eyes, a laugh that rumbled like distant thunder promising rain. He was the steady anchor in her whirlwind world, the one who remembered her allergy to shellfish without fail, who left sticky notes on the fridge with doodles of hearts and inside jokes from their first date. It hadn't always felt this destined. Sarah remembered the day they met as if it were etched in watercolor on her soul. It was a drizzly autumn evening in 2021, in the bustling heart of Evergreen City, where she'd been rushing to her shift at the community bookstore. A cozy nook stacked floor to ceiling with dog-eared paperbacks and the faint scent of vanilla candles. Her umbrella had betrayed her mid-stride, inverting in the wind like a traitorous flower, soaking her through to the bone. That's when Alex appeared, materializing from the rain like a hero from one of her romance novels. He was there with an extra jacket draped over his arm, his dark hair plastered to his forehead in endearing spikes. "Here," he'd said, voice smooth as aged whiskey, shrugging off his wool coat and draping it over her shoulders without a second thought. The fabric smelled of sandalwood and fresh laundry, wrapping around her like an embrace she hadn't known she needed. From that chivalrous rescue, their story unfolded like the pages of a well-loved book. Dates blurred into a montage of magic, picnics in the park where he'd unpack gourmet cheese boards he'd learned to assemble from online tutorials, just to see her eyes light up, midnight drives along the coast, windows down, her head on his shoulder as they sang off-key to old soul tunes, quiet Sundays in his apartment, where he'd cook her eggs Benedict from scratch, hollandaise sauce whisked to fluffy perfection while she sketched him in her journal, capturing the way his brow furrowed in concentration. Alex was attentive in ways that made her heart ache with gratitude. He'd surprise her with wildflower bouquets because tulips remind me of your laugh, or cancel a late work meeting to hold her through a panic attack after a tough day at her graphic design job. "You're my safe harbor, Sarah," he'd whisper, his thumb brushing away her tears. "And I'm yours, always." Their wedding was a dream woven from wildflowers and whispered vows. Under a canopy of string lights in her parents' backyard garden, with fireflies flickering like living stars, Sarah walked down a petal-strewn aisle in a gown of soft chiffon that flowed like a summer breeze. Alex waited at the altar, his tuxedo tailored to perfection, but it was the vulnerability in his eyes, the slight tremble of his hand as he took hers, that sealed her certainty. "I promise to choose you every day, sparkling heart," he said during his vows, voice thick with emotion, "in the chaos and the calm, because with you I've found my home." The kiss that followed tasted of salt and sweetness, sealing a love that felt unbreakable, eternal. But perfection, Sarah learned, was a fragile illusion, tested not in the sunlit highs but in the shadowed valleys. It started subtly, 6 months into their marriage, when Alex's promotion at the architectural firm demanded more of him. Blueprints sprawling across the dining table like territorial maps, late nights lit by the blue glow of his laptop. At first, she admired his drive, the way his passion for designing sustainable homes mirrored her own creative fire. They'd collapse into bed at odd hours, his arms slung over her waist, murmuring about the eco-villages he'd sketch for low-income families, dreams that made her fall for him all over again. Then came the diagnosis. It was a Tuesday in late spring, the kind where lilacs bloomed defiant against the urban sprawl. Alex had been complaining of headaches, brushing them off as stress, until a routine checkup unearthed the truth. A benign brain tumor, nestled like a hidden thorn in the folds of his mind. The word benign was a cruel tease. Operable, yes, but the surgery loomed like a storm cloud, promising risks that twisted Sarah's stomach into knots. "It's nothing," he insisted that night, pulling her close on their velvet couch, the city skyline twinkling indifferently beyond the window. But his voice cracked, and in the dim lamplight, she saw the fear he hid so masterfully, the boy who'd grown up fatherless, piecing together a facade of invincibility from scraps of resilience. The weeks blurred into a haze of doctors' visits and hushed conversations. Sarah became his shadow, her days a blur of research on neurosurgeons and support groups, her nights cradling him as tremors of anxiety shook his frame. "What if I change?" he confessed one midnight, the rain pattering against the panes like accusatory fingers. "What if I'm not me anymore? Your perfect husband gone." Tears carved silent paths down his cheeks, and Sarah's heart shattered at the sight. The man who'd always been her rock, now crumbling under the weight of his own fragility. She cupped his face, thumbs tracing the stubble she'd once teased him about, and whispered, "You were never perfect, Alex. You were human, and that's why I love you. The flaws, the fears, they're the threads that weave us tighter." The surgery day arrived like a thief in the fog-shrouded dawn. Sarah sat in the sterile waiting room, the clock's tick echoing her pulse, clutching the leather bracelet he'd given her on their anniversary. Tiny silver charms of a book, a coffee cup, and a key, symbols of their shared world. Hours stretched into eternities, each update from the surgeon a lifeline. Stable vitals. Progressing well. When they wheeled him out, groggy and bandaged, his first grope for her hand ignited a sob from deep within her chest. "Sarah." His voice was a rasp, eyes fluttering open to find hers. "Did I dream it all?" Recovery was a slow, sacred unraveling. Alex's once steady hands fumbled with utensils, his sharp wit dulled by fatigue, words sometimes tripping over themselves like hesitant dancers. Sarah quit her freelance gigs to be his full-time cheerleader, turning their living room into a haven of puzzles and audiobooks, her voice narrating tales of far-off adventures to chase away the boredom. There were dark days, frustrations boiling over into arguments, him slamming doors when therapy exercises mocked his limitations, her retreating to the balcony with a glass of wine, whispering prayers to the stars. "I feel like a burden," he admitted one evening, slumped on the kitchen floor amid spilled cereal, his defeat a tangible ache in the air. She knelt beside him, gathering the mess with trembling hands, and pulled him into her lap. "You're my adventure, Alex. The plot twists don't scare me, they make the story ours." Through it all, glimmers of their old magic persisted, like fireflies in twilight. One afternoon, as golden light slanted through the blinds, Alex surprised her by shuffling to his drafting table, pencils scattering like fallen leaves. With painstaking strokes, he sketched a new design. Not a grand village, but a tiny treehouse in their backyard, complete with a skylight for stargazing and a hammock for two. "For us," he said, presenting it like a love letter, his grin tentative but triumphant. That night, they lay on a blanket in the grass, his head pillowed on her stomach, pointing out constellations until laughter bubbled up, unbidden and pure. "I thought I'd lost this," he murmured, fingers interlacing with hers. "Lost you." She kissed his temple, tasting the salt of healed scars. "Never. You're still my perfect because you're mine." A year later, as autumn leaves painted the city in fiery hues, Alex returned to work part-time. His designs bolder, infused with the empathy born of vulnerability. Sarah watched him thrive, her own career blooming anew in illustrations inspired by their journey, portraits of lovers weathered but unbowed. On their 4th anniversary, He led her blindfolded to the backyard, where the treehouse stood complete, fairy lights twinkling like captured wishes. Inside, a table set for two, candlelight flickering over a handwritten note, "To my imperfect wife, who taught me perfection is in the choosing. I choose you again and again." They danced then, slow and swaying to the rhythm of their heartbeats. His arms strong once more around her waist. In that moment, under a canopy of whispers and wonders, Sarah realized the truth. Her perfect husband wasn't flawless. He was flawed, fierce, and utterly beautifully real. A love story not written in stars, but carved in the quiet courage of everyday grace. Oh friends, doesn't that just melt your heart? If My Perfect Husband resonated with you or sparked a little English practice magic, please subscribe to Evermore Love for more original stories that capture the essence of true romance. Drop a like if second chances in love hit home. Share in the comments what perfect means to you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching all the way through. It means everything. Until next time, keep loving fiercely.